everybody, welcome to another episode of the Comic Source Podcast. I'm your host, Jace. Crowdfunding episode today. We're talking about a really interesting project that's currently live on Kickstarter. Link in the show notes. You can go and check it out. The project is called Starweed, and I have one of the co-creators and writer joining me to tell us all about it, Alex Wilson. Alex, thanks for taking the time.
Yes, thank you for having me. Tony sends his regrets.
Yeah, everybody, Tony Grigori is another one of the co-creators on this. Super talented guy. You might be like, why does that name sound familiar? We had him on to talk about Pork Chop Robot Killer, his Zoop crowdfunding a while back. So, yeah, unfortunately he had something come up and couldn't make it, but that's okay. Alex is going to handle it all solo. And we'll kick it off. Alex, why don't you give us the elevator pitch, which I heard the elevator pitch and I was like, I'm in. This is just such a cool idea. So let everybody know what it's about.
Okay, great. It's in a future where people smoke the remains of dead celebrities. This is about the people who heist the corpses. And that's the pitch. It also stars dinosaurs and an inflatable Cary Grant, if either of those things appeal to you.
Yeah, so such an interesting idea. Longtime followers of the podcast will know what a big Bad Idea fan I am. They have something called Hero Trade, which is sort of similar, but quite a bit different in terms of selling off the remains of superpowered beings so that you can get powers. This takes it a little, one step further, maybe not as wild or far-fetched.
Oh, interesting. I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. But smoking the remains of a celebrity, right? Like, this is, for me, all too real. I could see people wanting to do this. Like, what closer way to get to the star you admired or what have you than take them into your body? So give us an idea.
I want the sneakers you endorse. I want your ash. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how did you come up with the initial idea?
Oh boy, this is going to sound like a really square answer, but it didn't come from the cannabis angle at all, or it didn't even come from the celebrity angle. I wrote a short story, and it was about somebody escaping from a space prison, and it was a kind of a sadist character who did not have enough legs to carry a longer piece, but I kind of liked this idea of the escape being part of a larger story. So I was like, okay, so what would this character be if I did create a longer story for this person? And I had asked these questions like, what did they do to get in space prison? And what was their world like? How did they get caught? If they were competent, how did they get caught? Or if they weren't competent, that's interesting too, right? And then questions like, oh, well, what would be fun to draw? And why is the answer always dinosaurs? So what we did with this thing was, like, I don't remember. I think I had a note written down at one point, like smoking the remains of dead celebrities, and I've since learned that it's something that pops up in pop culture once every like 10 years or so. There's a reference to it in a Cheech and Chong movie. Mm-hmm. There's I think a Tupac song has something as a reference to that, or maybe just a story about some of Tupac's friends did this. So it is something that comes up every once in a while, and I wasn't aware of it because I'm not that steeped in cannabis culture. When I got with Tony, like, Tony knows more about this stuff, and then when readers started saying, like, oh, this is so cool, this is like when this happened and when this person said, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. But me, I just thought it would be funny if these people 50 years from now are like, wouldn't it be funny if we smoked Martha Stewart? Yeah. And so the first episode, or the first issue, is called This Is Your Brain on Martha Stewart, and the second one is, I think, parents who pope have kids who pope, or say it's all these references to the drug commercials and stuff that I grew up on, and it sort of became like its own thing where we just, how can we expand on these cannabis. Cannibal. I never put those two together until just now. Why? I need to go back and rewrite the whole thing. I never really plan these things, but you just sort of discover the celebrity, you discover the cannabis culture ideas that you can explore, and then from that we just sort of told a little revenge story. It was somebody who got wronged by the people she works for, and she gets thrown in jail, and she crosses the solar system to kick their butts.
Yeah, everybody, if you're listening, Alex mentioned the first couple issues. This is the campaign for issue number 3. We want to make that clear. However, if you haven't heard of this before, or you haven't read the first couple issues, don't worry. There are tiers where you can get caught up. Is that right, Alex?
That's correct. Yeah, we have all 3 issues. The first printing of number 1 and number 2. We probably will not go back to print these, so whatever we have is there. But digital, we don't run out of that until we take down the grid, and hopefully that won't happen at least until we finish the campaign.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple other things. You mentioned kind of these kind of science fiction themes. So from that initial idea of, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, and then finding out, it is a thing in cannabis culture that pops up from time to time. You could have gone, a lot of different directions. You could have gone, in the past, could have said it in the, 50s, 60s, 70s, on Earth, or you could have gone, far-fetched out there in the galaxy, what have you. What made you, was there something specific that you thought this would be better to really go fantastical and go sci-fi and really bring in a lot of really cool characters from that perspective?
Just the fact that it started with a space prison escape, and I don't think that I ever revised that aspect of it. And that's a great point. A lot of times you will, when you have a kernel of an idea and that's what you start with, as soon as you start expanding on it, you suddenly like, oh wait, the kernel is the least interesting thing because like who remembers this prison escape? In fact, it's in there. It's still there in issue 2, but it's not like the thing that I think everyone will talk about when they think about Starweed, especially with the title and the smoke on the cover of each issue, etc. But that's a great point. Like, what would this have looked like if we have done this a more realistic story, or set it in the past? Or I think that because Tony and I are about the same age, we probably would have found something really interesting to do set in the 80s, at the height of or the beginning of the drug war from Reagan. And it's something that we talked a lot about is how the war on drugs and the criminalization is at least as harmful as drugs can be. And then also Tony brought up something really important recently to me, and reminded me that when we talk about drugs, a lot of times we categorize cannabis and drugs that are more harmful, and there's an ocean of difference between these substances, and so we want to differentiate between when we're talking about something like cannabis, which Starweed is, versus something like heroin or something that has more destructive properties almost inherently, so that when we talk about the criminalization is worse than the drug itself, like we might be talking about different things if you hear that and flinch at it, and we want to be mindful of that.
Yeah, we all know that. That's why here, in the real world, it's being decriminalized, but still regulated. Much like alcohol. Mm-hmm. Alcohol is legal, right, but that doesn't mean you can, drink a bunch of beers and get behind the wheel of the car. Same thing with marijuana and cannabis and what have you. But what I'm hearing, this idea, okay, set this one in space because of the breakout. That doesn't mean that there can't be a whole universe of Starweed stories, and maybe you do go back at some point, and go back to the 80s or the 70s or what have you. That would be a really cool idea.
We do have a like a one-page flashback about like the invention of Starweed, like when it becomes the thing that people realize, oh, we could make a lot of money about this, and it's some fun with that. We do look a flashback that's kind of like a dream sequence that's not exactly a flashback. We do a lot of fun stuff like that.
Yeah,
so we
also
do to explore it, but
yeah, I was sorry to interrupt, but
no.
The double meaning of the Starweed, right? Like it's set in space, so it's Starweed, but no, it's weed that's made out of stars, celebrities. So I love that double meaning as well.
Yeah, and I do. I am a title guy, so like once we had the title, I think that probably cemented it. Now going back to your original question that I didn't really have a good answer for, because it was called Starweed, maybe that's why it didn't occur to me to think of it in terms of realistic storytelling. And then also, and Tony pointed this out to me at one point, is like, I never really thought of it as a stoner comedy. It definitely has elements of a stoner comedy, but that's not the genre that I thought we were doing. I was thinking action adventure comedy, science fiction, whatever. But stoner comedy itself is its own genre, and I want to be respectful of that, and also understand that we are borrowing heavily from it, but also saying that I don't know that this would succeed if this was just a stoner comedy.
Yeah, we should let everybody know. You guys had a very low goal, which was tongue in cheek as well. So 420 was the goal. Far surpassed that already, everybody. So this is a situation where if you go and back it, you know you're going to get it. It's not a situation where they're trying to reach the goal or what have you. So I'll remind everybody, as I always do, the way you can help out Alex and Tony, other than pledging and becoming part of this, because we know times are tight, and maybe you would love to be a part of this, but you just don't have the means right now. We get it. The other way you can help out is by sharing it on social media. Let your friends know, your comic reading friends, your friends that are in the cannabis culture, maybe your local comic shop know. So anybody that wants to be a part of this has the chance. Because, man, there's nothing worse than finding out about a Kickstarter that you would have loved to have been a part of, but it's already ended. So the campaign runs through Saturday, October 5th. So you have a little bit of time, but at the same time, don't wait. Go and check it out right away. So the other thing I'm kind of curious about, Alex, from this original idea, decide to set it in space. You have that kernel of the idea of space prison. Okay, we're going to be smoking the remains of dead celebrities here. Where do you go from there? Like, how do you go about world building? Was it a matter of, okay, we're going to do the characters and build the universe around them? Or did you guys start with the universe and then fill out the characters? Did you do them kind of bouncing back and forth between the two? Give us some background into actually building out the story.
It's been a little bit. We worked on this between other projects. I worked in video games for a little bit, then came out of video games, worked on this a little more, and that's one of the reasons why it took a little while for us to get to the third issue, even though it was substantially done before even the second issue was kickstarted. I think what we did in this case was develop kind of everything simultaneously, and I'm more of an outliner these days, but at the time it was sort of like, okay, so if this happens kind of in the middle, the escaping from prison, then maybe she's going to crash land on this alternative planet. It makes sense in the story, I promise. No, I don't promise. It might not make sense. It's a Starweed story. What do you want? And she crash lands. She escapes from there, and then she comes back to Earth to get her revenge, or not. We're not going to give away the finale. So the question is if that happens kind of in the middle, what is the lead up to that? What happens on Earth to get her into jail? And we wanted to create a story that had multiple action set pieces. We wanted to use the decompressed storytelling of not have thousands of panels per page, of modern comics. We wanted not to have tons and tons of words so that we're not, exposition heavy. But we also wanted to have multiple action set pieces in a single comic. And so we had a heist at the beginning, which I think is like the first 12 pages or 10 or 12 pages of the comic, and then sort of the things that go wrong after the heist, and that's another 10 to 12 pages, and then another 8 pages, I believe, of things going even more wrong after the after heist, because they actually were able to get away with these previous two things, and that is when. So basically, I think the villains are the guards at Lenin's tomb in Moscow, and there's a rival drug lord is trying to steal the corpse that they steal, which happens to be Lenin. Who knew? And then in the final act, her boss is being raided by the feds, and that is when the chaos ensues. And so through all of that, we are pacing out the exposition, we're introducing the world and the characters, and once you have an artist on board, like Tony, you find that you can even say even less than you initially thought you could, because words can just be a facial expression, or we have a design of a ship that kind of tells us what we need to know about the time and place of this story. If you look at just the Moscow heist, it's Red Square in the future, and I make maybe 5-6 decisions per panel about what might happen in that thing, and I present that to Tony. It's like a conversation, and then he comes back and makes 1,000 more decisions about, okay, I think that this is going to be like Vegas or Myrtle Beach or one of these really touristy areas, and there's just covered in billboards, and he's constantly just inventing. You know, I say henchman does this, and he designs a henchman, which is like, I don't know, the kind of iconic thing that you see in Star Wars that, like, we're going to be talking about the Stormtrooper design for dozens of years. And if this was a bigger comic, then I think you would be talking about Tony's designs for a long time, because he's making all of these choices. So I think that what we did in this case was we just completely just built it out with each kernel of an idea from okay, it's a heist. What are they stealing? It's going to be Lenin. Perfect. What do we do? You know, what does Moscow's Red Square look like? How do we introduce, you know, the idea that people are smoking, the celebrities, if we're in the midst of a heist? Oh, people are smoking on the roof, and they're trying to test DNA because that's what matters to them. It's like, you know, having Michael Jordan shoes, but in this case, having Martha Stewart's. I don't know.
Yeah, ashes remains, I guess we'll say.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it sounds like it's so fast-paced that you guys kind of had to do it that way. It would be hard to build it out, especially I've had so many writers tell me that doing like heist or prison breaks and that sort of thing, those are kind of the hardest things to write, because you want it to be cool and something that, you know, everybody hasn't necessarily seen before. But typically they're complicated and there's a lot of moving parts, and it also has to be believable to some extent.
Oh yeah, or at least internally consistent. Yeah, internally believable. Suspension of disbelief, right? If the reader is thinking, nah, this isn't working for me, then yeah, you failed probably. So.
Yeah, well, we mentioned earlier it is the third issue. You kickstarted the previous two as well. Is that correct?
I did. Yes.
Yeah. So, what has the community been like? Do you feel like you've built up a following? You mentioned it's been a while since issue 2. People have been asking for it. Like give us an idea on the feedback that the series and the following that it has.
Yeah, people have really dug it. And in fact, so you mentioned the low price of a 420 for this one, and you know, we don't break even at 420. Shocking, comics are more expensive to make than that. But the idea is that, you know, we are going to make this regardless. And if I have to lose money, if only 2 people from the previous backer or from the previous readers wanted to read the end of it, and it cost me $100 to print 2 issues, because that's the economies of scale, I would do that. You know, we wanted to finish this, and so I was going off that idea of you have the goal be as low as you can reasonably finish the job with, and so everything else is going to be a stretch goal, and that's also how we look at this Kickstarter, and in the previous Kickstarters, it was like we have the wild $100 and of course $420 rewards on our Kickstarter. There with T-shirts, we got the variant cover, which is amazing each time. I love the guest collaborators that I get to work with here. We love the stretch goals, the extra prints and stuff that we get to do. Right now we're doing a tie-dye T-shirt for the first time. I've been wanting to do this, but I couldn't find a T-shirt maker that would do it. All these things are great, but like the ones that really excite me is when somebody just like, I want to pledge for the exact amount for the books. I'm here for the comics. Like, we did this because we make comics and we love comics, and you do this podcast because you like comics. You know, like you enjoy these things and you want to promote them. And so that's what gets me excited, is when people are actually here to read, and also like seeing those names come back is the greatest joy about Kickstarter that you probably aren't going to get on any other way to release a comic. You know, I'm not going to hear about all the orders that go to a shop that people like, they're reading issue number 3 of, Tony's doing Rick and Morty right now. You know, like he's not going to hear about each individual unless they reach out to him. But I'm seeing the name and I'm going, I know that name. They backed 1 and 2. This is so cool. So that is the great joy of this, is you get to spend a month, a stressful month, don't get me wrong, but connecting with readers. And I think that is something that's really valuable and something that I will miss when I run out of steam and can't do this anymore, which might be on October 5th at 420.
Yeah, at 420, exactly. And one of the unique, Alex talked about some of the rewards that are available and what have you. The one that stood out for me is the $120 tier. You can be somebody that gets whose remains get smoked in the comic, like that. Like we've seen before. Lots of Kickstarters do it now, where you get a chance to be in the comic. But this is a unique way. Like usually you're a henchman, or you're like a dead body, or you're in the background, just a background character never named or whatever. But you guys will put, there's space for 10. 5 of them have been taken, so there's 5 left, everybody. But yeah, you can be somebody that gets rolled up and smoked. Your remains will get rolled up and smoked in this book. Was this something you and Tony came up with, or was this something that somebody, a reader, a backer, whatever, suggested?
No, it was something we talked about doing, and I think we forgot in the first 2. Like by the time we thought of it, we'd already colored and lettered each of the issues, and we're like, oh, that's right, we were going to do that. And so the third one was like, okay, do not. And I actually have in the script, I have an appendix of like, here's all the gags that we've come up with for these things. Like, oh boy, I'm trying to remember some of them, but they're like, Bob Dylan and Dylan Thomas. That's not one of the jokes, but it's like that. Yeah. Thinking of, like, I think it was like a Little Caesar and then Other Caesars or something like that. Various gags that we could just throw off in the background and stuff like that. So we would fill in these things. Tony would make some up. We would name, famous people that we were interested in, people that might be hate smoked, people that might be love smoked because they're just amazing people. I think Jack Kirby's mentioned, of course. Who do we love? Who are we interested in? But then also, like, there is Hitler is probably smoked a lot, by these, by not just by people who idolize him, but people who are like, aha, we're getting one over on him. So the idea is that, so we left 10 crates, blank, and, we are saving that for backers, and we can also put in the appendix, the back matter of the issue, what you might have been famous for, or why you died. I can't remember what we suggest there. And if you don't want something like that, then we don't have to do that. We can say you died of unnatural causes, or we don't have to say anything at all if you don't want. But we thought we'd do that too. So if you are canonically famous in this universe, I think people might want to know why.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's a fantastic idea, but probably the coolest way to ever be incorporated into a book. I mean, I'm in a few books here or there just from creators that I know that they usually get a kick out of killing me for some reason. They'll throw me in there and I'm like dead by the next panel. I don't know what that says about their love of me, but yeah, just such a cool idea. So again, everybody, link in the show notes. Definitely go and check it out. Again, you have a few weeks left, but don't forget and wait, because then it could be too late. So as we're winding down here, Alex, any last thoughts or anything else you want to share with the audience?
No, if you don't get a chance to check out the show notes, or you're driving, starweed.com will always be pointing to where you can get it, if you can get it, and we hope to be able to make this available at least digitally after this Kickstarter is done. But I do intend to print, not so many more that we're always going to have copies. So if you do want one of these things, please back it. And if I like trade paperbacks, we all like trade paperbacks. We're not going to be able to do a trade paperback unless this is successful. And I'm really sorry that it puts the responsibility on readers to do that. But if you would like to see more stories from this, and more formats, then yes, please take a look, give it a shot, share with a friend. We also have a gift option, and that's something new that we're going to try, where I don't think that I'm going to have so many backers that this is going to be unwieldy. But if you want me to deliver to a friend digitally on Christmas, I will send that email. I will set up the email a few days beforehand. I'm not going to work on Christmas, but I can do that. I can send the complete series to someone you either love or you don't want to be friends anymore with, and this is your way of saying goodbye.
If you really want to get revenge on somebody, you pay the $120.
Oh, that's great.
Their name. And then you send it to them on Christmas. Hey, guess what? You're dead, and I'm smoking you. Or gonna.
Wow, I like this. I like your revenge story as much as I like ours. This is nice. All right.
Yeah, there you go, everybody. 5 slots left.
Anyway, I really appreciate you having me on. I'm sorry Tony couldn't join us. I love this team. And I really, I would love for you to check it out just to see what they did with this idea. And yeah.
Okay.
Making comics.
Yeah, everybody, again, link in the show notes. Go and check it out. There's a little bit of time left. Last thing before I let you go, Alex, let everybody know if they want to follow along, so they know, maybe they've read it, or after they read it, they want to reach out, or they have questions before they back it. Where's the best place online? Are you active on social media at all?
Sure. Yeah, I'm. My friends call me Alex, and you can call me Alex as well. I publish professionally as Lex Wilson, which is a long story involving SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and Barney the Purple Dinosaur. I'm also an actor. But on Twitter, I'm Alexotica. I think it's called X now. Blue Sky, I'm LexWilson.bsky.social. Instagram, Make a Buck. I'm sorry that I'm different on all the platforms. I was always late. I was always too late to start on the new platforms, so I don't have the consistent username. But LexWilson.com for everything else. And anything Starweed, Starweed.com. We grabbed it a while ago, and it will always be pointing somewhere.
Great, and I'll put links to the social media and the websites in the show notes as well, everybody. So if you're having trouble finding them, just go and click there. So again, campaign's already fully funded, but we got to, as Alex said, we got to push this, up there. So not only do we get a trade paperback, but it's feasible for him and Tony to keep making stories in this world. We talked about the fact that you can go back and tell one in the 60s or 70s or 80s or even, now, as opposed to the science fiction setting that they have. I just think this idea of smoking dead celebrities, you could go back even further. You could go back to the 1800s. It's an underground thing. Look at what we were doing. It's just such a fantastic idea. It could go in so many different directions. But again, it can't happen unless it's supported, and Alex and Tony therefore know that, hey, people are going to show up if we tell more stories in this universe. So, Alex, thanks so much.
It's okay. It's okay. He's better looking than me. I'll take it.
Yeah. Really appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Jace.
And to all you out there in the audience, whether you're joining us on YouTube or listening to the audio-only feed, thanks for showing up. We appreciate the support as always, and we will talk to you next time.